When we walk with Jesus, our victory is guaranteed. I am Martha. I gave birth to a magnificent boy, but my father-in-law lies in him. Before telling you my story, I invite you to like and above all leave me a comment. I lost my parents very early, and when I got married, I immediately considered my in-laws as my new family. My husband's parents were like my own parents since I had no one at all. I got married to Frank, the son of a former minister. We lived together in the family home. It was a very big house. There was room for everyone. And since I had not experienced this family atmosphere, I had no problems at all. I was very happy because not only was Frank the man of my life, but also because my in-laws considered me their own daughter. 2 years after our marriage, my father-in-law died when I was already a few months pregnant. The funeral went well, and he was buried. One evening, while I was preparing dinner, my mother-in-law came to see me. Martes, is dinner ready? No, Mother. I would like to suggest something to you. Yes, Mom, I'm listening. When the baby is born, I would like you to name him after Daddy. Ach, Mom, I don't see any inconvenience. Dad always had a lot of respect for me. The same night, I had a dream in which I saw my baby being taken out of my belly, and I was running after the cord to catch up with him. The next morning, I met my mother-in-law to tell her about it. Hello, Mom. Did you sleep well? Hello, my daughter. I slept well, thank you. And you? I didn't sleep well at all. I had a strange dream. I would even say a nightmare. Oh my God. Go on, tell me. We sat around a table, and while we were having breakfast, I told her about my dream. Don't worry, my daughter, it's just a dream, she says. I must admit that I was a little surprised by this answer. This dream really troubled me. But as my mother-in-law said, I soon forgot about it. A few months later, I gave birth to a baby boy, and I named him after my stepfather. My husband and I, including my mother-in-law, were filled with joy. We had organized a big party for the occasion, and during the ceremony, my mother-in-law took the baby to another room, under the pretext that she wanted to present him to the ancestors. I didn't see any problem with it since I trusted her completely. Time passed and my boy was growing really fast, but there was a major problem. Until the age of 2, he still couldn't speak. I'm not talking about pronouncing the words correctly. He said no word, nothing at all. Besides, he didn't eat like a boy his age either. He only drank milk. What bothered me was the fact that nobody seemed to care. Neither his grandmother, much less his father. Frank, this child's problem is a bother to me seriously. I will go back to the hospital to see another doctor. Honey, we had already been there when he was 1 year old. The doctor made us understand that he has no problem. He will speak when the time is right. Don't worry. How won't I worry? And what about the fact that he can't eat food like every other child his age? All this will come. Each day that passed plunged me into deep anguish. I couldn't believe that a 2-year-old couldn't talk or eat properly. He would often spend days sitting alone in a corner, staring at a single spot, and sometimes laughing as if he were with someone. While his father was away, since he traveled a lot, I slept with him, and at night I noticed that he was not sleeping. He spent his nights watching me sleep. Every time I woke up with a start, I always caught him looking at me, or laughing like chatting with someone. It looked like he was living in another world. Powerless in the face of this situation, I tried to put myself together. Every holiday, the whole family goes to the village to spend some time there, to savor the fresh air and enjoy nature. But the last holiday I had spent there were very scary and disturbing. And while we were there, my boy became even more aggressive. He was screaming all the time, as if he was being persecuted. As I was strolling one evening in the village, I heard 2 mothers talking about me. They spoke in their mother tongue, not knowing that I understood the language perfectly. One said, "I'm sure this girl's mom is no longer living. If she lived, she would have known that her daughter is in a bad family," and the other replied, "You are absolutely right. She does not know that her son was sacrificed by her in-laws. This child is no longer a child. Poor girl, I really pity her." I couldn't believe my ears. How is it possible? They sacrificed my son? No, I do not believe it. It's just mere gossip. I admit that since that day, I could no longer find sleep. Several ideas raced through my mind. What if it was true? When the holidays ended, we returned home. Unable to bear this situation any longer, I went to confront Frank. Frank, I don't know what you do in your family, but I would like to know what you did to my son. What? Martha, what are you talking about? What's wrong? You know very well what I'm talking about. If you don't tell me, I'll move heaven and earth to find out the whole truth. Calm down, please. Why do you put yourself in this state? I got up and walked out of the house filled with anger. I prayed for my son, and I decided to go and meet a man of God. When he received me, the man of God made me understand that indeed, my son was bewitched and possessed, and that he was chosen from my in-laws to be sacrificed in order to bring back the soul of my father-in-law to recover it. We immediately started prayers. From that day on, I started poking around. I was trying to find out all about the things my in-laws were hiding. One evening, my husband came to threaten me. If you continue to snoop around my family, we will no longer get along. All I ask of you is to release my son. I was determined to face them all. My mother-in-law, who was not far from there, came out abruptly and retorted, saying, "This child is our blood. We can do whatever we want with him." "Well, we'll see about that," I replied. When Frank and his mother heard that I was taking my son to meet the men of God for prayers, they began threatening me, and Frank made it clear to me that if there is anything in his family, I have to respect that as his wife, and if I don't do that, he will file for divorce. But no matter what he said to me, I was determined to move on with my plans. At some point, the whole situation caused a lot of tension between Frank and me. He filed for divorce claiming custody of the child, but despite all the connections he had, I still won the case against him. I had custody of my son. I left the city where my in-laws lived and moved to another city. Today, my son is 10 years old. He's starting to get better. He now eats properly. He is even already beginning to pronounce a few sentences. The fight is not over. I continue to fight for him.